iRacing Season 3 update has brought us a ton more content. In this video I'm going to talk quite quickly about them and some of the things that stood out for me in the Season 3 drop. Firstly, let's start off with the newest circuit, the Bend. Otherwise known as the Shell V Motorsport Park at the Bend. The racing circuit that is supposedly the second longest motorsport complex in the world after the Nürburgring. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the cambered corners. It's going to be a wonderful track to try and learn. Picking it in the supercars wasn't, necessarily the best thing for me, although it will be coming up in the supercars later this season, so on the endurance rounds alongside the Bathurst 1000. But as somebody who hadn't driven a lap of it before, I felt like I was able to get up to speed with it relatively quickly. The trickiest bits are things that you can get at other Australian circuits, such as, for example, Phillip Island, where once you know your way around it, you can find the markers right away. But because there's not much in the way of track furniture for a lot of the lap, for those first couple of laps, you really have to learn what you can do. Where you can brake, where the curbing is likely to upset the balance of the car, where the camber is likely to cause understeer or oversteer. All of those little things. Another new piece of content that got added on the road side is the new Ferrari 296 Challenge. This is going to be a lot of fun to have, replacing the Ferrari 296 GT3, the Ferrari Challenge series, for next season. And whilst it's a shame that the 296 GT3 will no longer be at a D license and it's its own paid piece of content, it's nice to see iRacing getting the most out of this Ferrari deal that they have. Maybe an F1 car in the future, please, just please. But the 296 Challenge is something that complements the GT3 Overhaul as well, which we'll get to in a moment. What I like about having it is it's got the higher top speed, the less complicated downforce in a way, and less complicated electronics. Which means that the Ferrari Challenge lobbies are going to have another dimension added into them this season. Now, whether that's good for racing or whether that just makes it more chaotic will remain to be seen. It's certainly a different measure anyways. The last piece of sort of brand new content that we're getting, the Gen 4 Cup cars. Right now we have the two different manufacturers in Chevrolet and Ford. Hopefully we'll get more of them later on. I guess it's probably just licensing deals, but with Ram's announcement that they're coming back to the truck series, I would assume that Stellantis would be happy with us having Dodge. It's nice to see these cars coming in an overhauled kind of form. It reminds me of when I first got on the Surface and I jumped into the Arca. I mean, it's different to the old, now legacy Gen 4 Cup car, but it has a lot of things that are still quite similar. I remember when they overhauled what was also previously known as the Arca in previous years. And it's always been stuff that's quite fun. Now with a schedule that puts more laps into the races, I think I'm going to have to give it a go next season. Now, sticking with the oval side, there are some oval circuits that got the overhaul. Now, some of them I believe the lighting isn't fully operational yet. Hopefully we'll see a patch for that soon. But I was surprised to see that the tracks they said were going to be retired are still on the service after the announced retirement. So I guess Season 4 will see the full updates that remove things like the old Charlotte and the other old tracks like Gateway and Sonoma. But if you want to have a look at all that kind of stuff that I already talked about, have a look in the description section down below for a lengthy video where I went through all of the tracks that are going to be getting removed. I had a lot of fun making that video, but at the same time these new tracks are fun to look at and fun to drive. Some bits are just more kind of true to life, like the redesign of the scenery surrounding the Phoenix circuit, for example. But it allows iRacing to, before they jump graphics models like they're saying they're going to in the not too distant future, make the most out of the engine that they currently have. And speaking of making the most of what they currently have, the rain enabling for some new cars is also a lot of fun. Whilst the Super Formulas is a series that I still need to get up to speed with, a series that I've been loving for the past couple of years, I think realistically since about 2022 when I started trying to learn it because I wanted to try and get ahead of the curve for the W13 coming on the service. The Lotus 79 getting rain is brilliant. Now I'd love for the W13 to also get rain enabled at some point because that could add another dimension to works the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. But with the Vintage Grand Prix Tour being I would say a real success for iRacing this season, having rain enabled racing just adds an extra dimension of chaos. Especially if you do what I did and go to Spa and flood the track. Yeah, it is a bit chaotic. But perhaps one of the things that throws the larger spanners into the works is the overhaul for cars like the GT3s. I really like how it handles now. It reminds me a lot of Assetto Corsa Competizione, which I have over 1,000 hours in on Steam. Granted, a lot of that is in broadcast or livery design, but it's still a lot of hours I have just driving in the game anyway. And it's quite nice to have that transition between the games. It makes me feel reassured when you can carry your driving style across different simulators, because it means that there's an element of consistency that makes you think that there's an element of realism to it as well. I know that some of those who aren't particularly big fans of ACC will be like, oh, it makes it less realistic because it's more like ACC, but there are so many stories about the realism that goes into ACC. I think it makes it more realistic. Now, it does reward people who drive more aggressively, because you can just spam the brake, and you can just go full pelt on the brake and hope the ABS will save you, like in ACC. But sometimes, if it's not the most accurate, what's the sake in adding an additional challenge? Is it for the sake of just having a challenge? I like the fact that you can have a sort of reset playing field. Now, the old setups aren't entirely broken. I did jump in with an Acura at Bathurst. I did have to raise the front ride height because it was failing tech, and it did love to bottom out through McPhillamy Park. It didn't get too twitchy through the chase, which is where I really expected it to. And it didn't really get too much of an issue when we went over Skyline or we were going down the mountain, which is where I also expected to be an issue in the Honda. And sorry, I do call it the Honda. I was an NSX main in ACC. But yeah, it's a change nonetheless. I don't know if it will exactly reset the playing field like I'm saying, but it is sure to shake up the order for a little while at least. But as always, let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below, folks. Thank you so much for watching and joining, and if you do want to keep in the loop about things going on in the world of sim racing, I've got a couple of videos planned that are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Until then, it's bye for now.